There is no bulge, and that's okay. In my last video, the truth behind bottom dysphoria, somebody had commented how they avoid wearing gray sweatpants and any lightweight clothing because they don't have a bulge. And I completely understand because I used to be the same way. I used to avoid wearing so many types of clothing because I didn't have a bulge. I felt like everyone noticed, and so I just would avoid at all costs. But then I realized over time that a lot of these fears and fixations were all in my mind. So today I wanted to talk about confidence, packing, and how I stopped these insecurities from controlling what I wore on a day-to-day basis. So when I first started developing bottom growth, I was not worried about the size. I was just ecstatic that my body was finally starting to do something that I never thought it could do. And that was grow into something so similar to a male phallus. Now, while bottom growth is not exactly a male phallus, it is pretty doggone close. When I tell you the resemblance is so similar, it's kind of scary. It's kind of scary how testosterone can alter our bodies in such a way. And I hate that this is YouTube because I wish I could be educational and show y'all, but just take my word for it. And I mean, Google's got pictures, but it's pretty doggone close. And what I mean by that is the erectile functionality is very similar. It gets erect. It has foreskin. It has a head. It's got TMI, like mine's got a vein going down it. Like it's crazy. And so when this started developing, a lot of my insecurities went right out the window because, again, this is something that was not there before and specifically grew because of a male predominant hormone. Now, obviously, pre-T, my dominant hormone was estrogen, and now it is testosterone, so that's how it happened. And that was a very euphoric feeling for me that diminished a lot of those bottom dysphorias that I had going on in my head. So I'd say the first way that dysphoria started to kind of subside and my mind started to shift away from how big my bulge was going to show, I just started learning my body and learning what has happened and changed due to testosterone. Once you start to kind of rewire your brain to realize that, hey, testosterone is doing all of this for my body in a way I never thought possible. This is something to be proud of. This is something to be excited about. And you won't focus so much on something that may not be a thing. Another thing is dysphoria can play such strong tricks on your mind. 9 times out of 10, people are not worried about your bulge. They're really not. A lot of it is in your head. When you having an anxiety or when you're insecure about something, that is what is in the front of your brain. But guess what? The rest of the world doesn't share that same insecurity about you. So that is not the first thing that they are thinking of. So when you're super paranoid about whether or not someone can tell you have a bulge or not because you know you don't, the rest of the world doesn't notice that. They're not thinking that. That's not the first thing in their brain. That's not what comes to mind when they see you. For example, my biggest insecurity as a kid used to be my nose. I used to think I had a big ass nose, and maybe I do. Let me know down the actually no, take that out. I used to think I had a big ass nose, and so I used to fixate on my nose, and I used to think the rest of the world fixated on my nose. But guess what? People fixated on my eyes. No one was worried about my nose. I always got compliments about my eyes. But because I was so insecure about my nose, I thought the rest of the world would notice. But they didn't. It is in here. It is a mind trick, and you can't let it win. And then confidence will sell your masculinity way more than a bulge ever could. I used to have this idea that having a bulge equaled whether you're valid or not, and that couldn't be any farther from the truth. It really doesn't matter. It does not define you as a man. It does not define you as anything because it is just a part of the body. And some people might have a bigger bulge than others. Some people might not have a bulge at all. Some people's bulge just isn't noticeable, and sometimes people are wearing certain clothing where it hides the bulge. They may have a big bulge, but you can't tell because of what they're wearing. So it doesn't matter. People all look different. It does not matter. It does not define you. Now, honestly, there are times that you may want to pack. Some people like to pack all the time. Some people only like to pack on certain occasions. I'm one of those people that only likes to pack on certain occasions because, believe it or not, packing for me is more of a headache than it is to not pack. Because when I pack, I'm more fixated on how it's sitting and making sure that it doesn't look too awkward, because at the end of the day, it's not an actual phallus, it's something I put on my body. So I'm more paranoid about what if it's not sitting in the right position, blah, 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 blah. So I'm not really big on packing unless I'm in the locker room at the gym or at the locker room at a pool or any situation where I may be in a more vulnerable position, like having to change and now people are seeing me down in my underwear. Now, those are situations where, yes, you might want to pack for safety and to avoid people questioning what's going on, because some people are weird and they are looking in the locker rooms for whatever God-given reason. So you do want to make sure that you are just playing things safe in situations like those. So with all that being said, I do have 3 tips when it does come to packing. Tip number 1 is pack for comfort, not for size. I can't stand, I'm sorry, you don't come for me in the comments, but I can't stand when I see people packing with like 10-inch dildos. Why that's a thing, I really don't know. I don't think it's necessary. I'm going for realistic, and realistically, cisgender men aren't rocking 10-inch hard in public. It's not happening. And I do feel like when transgender men do wear like 10-inch packers, it's not giving realistic, and if anything, I think that is outing you more than you just rocking no bulge at all. So I'll show you what I use in particular. I do have it in its sleeve, so it's not like it's showing anything crazy, so don't worry. But this is my packer. Super small, and I'm not mad at it. I prefer a very small packer because it's realistic. You just need something subtle to just give the image that you have a bulge. You do not need something going down to your calf. There's no reason for it. I promise you, there is no reason for it. And so this gets me by. It's relatively soft. It's not hard, not stiff. There's no reason you should have a stiff-ass packer either. It's not realistic. Phallus that is soft is going to be similar to this. Between like 3 to 5 inches is relatively normal and will do just fine. Number 2 is compression boxers will be your best friend because they are very, very tight and they will keep everything in place. Again, with a packer, it is not attached to your body, therefore it might move a little bit more than a natural cisgender man's penis would because it's not attached to your body. So when you have something attached to you, it could slip, it could move, it could turn upside down. A lot of things can go wrong. So you want to make sure it's in place and just not going to move a lot. I can wear compression shorts when I go to the gym, when I go for a run. I could literally do backflips and that packer's not going anywhere. I don't have to stress about it. If I go swimming, I don't have to stress about it being at the bottom of the pool. So yeah, I highly recommend very tight boxers like compression shorts. And then number 3, if you can't afford a packer right now, which I understand, times are tough, you can use a sock. I used to use a sock from like the ages of 7 to 13, 14, because obviously I was not asking my mother to buy me a packer. I don't even think she knew what it was. She probably still doesn't know what it is. And I just knew she wouldn't be down with that. So that was what I had to use before I could start buying my own packer. So again, a sock works just fine until you can get yourself a real packer. So to close this conversation out and to leave you with another message, just know that people are really not worried about some of the insecurities and dysphoria that run through your head rent-free. People are not worried about it. I wear gray sweatpants all the time with no packer, with no STP, I go to work in gray sweatpants. I'll go grocery shopping in sweatpants. I'll walk around my house in gray sweatpants. And nobody, and I mean nobody, has ever questioned whether or not I have a bulge. The only reason you think they care is because you care. But I promise you they don't. And I'll show you right now I'm wearing gray sweatpants, and I'll show you what they look like. I gotta stand on my chair, but I will. There is no bulge. And that's okay. Once you start wearing the things you want and you stop focusing so much on what people might think or what people might see, once you start focusing on you and just being comfortable within yourself and being confident within yourself, a lot of these dysphorias will be alleviated. You won't have to stress anymore. You can go through life without constantly worrying about whether or not you have a bulge. And I promise you, you will be so much happier. Do not let this take over your life down to the point where you're not wearing certain clothing because you are so insecure about it. And I know it takes time. I know it's easier said than done. I know for my trans guys who are not on testosterone, it's easier said than done, but it can be done. And that's why I strongly believe at this point in time, I'm almost 10 years on T. This is why I strongly believe you need to get your head straight before starting testosterone. You need to work on yourself mentally, and especially for my younger trans guys who still have a few years before they can even consider taking testosterone. Get your mind right and become confident first. And then once you do start testosterone, the sky is the limit. You are going to be the happiest trans person that you never thought possible. So again, if you have any more questions, if you have more questions in regards to packing or how to be confident, leave it down in the comments and I'd love to answer. Until next time, I love y'all. Peace.